Hello and hello. Today I'm here to talk a little bit about TrashPPL marketing plan. I've been developing this business that I call TrashPPL for 4 years now. 2017 probably when I started, and I haven't actually written the business plan yet. It's all been in my head, and I've been trying to develop really specific ways to describe what's happening, so that when time would come to write a business plan, it would come really quickly and easily. So I started that last night, and I'm going to get you up to speed on what I got so far. I stopped at the marketing plan, and I'll tell you why in a few minutes. Now this first part, this is the easy part. This sentence I'm about to tell you took like 3 years to create. When you try to describe what it is you're doing, you could run your mouth for a couple minutes, but you gotta consider people are in a hurry, and if you're meeting people new and you want to be able to get the information across quickly, you gotta get it down to something pretty small. And Twitter has helped me with that a lot, because it forces you to say what you have to say without filler. TrashPPL Executive Summary. TrashPPL is a zero-waste upcycling facility within a staffing agency within a TV series. What does that mean? The company analysis section, I expand on that with a paragraph of info that appears to be a run-on sentence. TrashPPL produces revenue from advertising and intellectual property by informing and entertaining the general public through media programs depicting a team of talent scouts and aspiring human resource managers who produce commission revenues by facilitating employment services for a staff of artists, engineers, sales, and waste management professionals who produce revenue by selling improvised modular building materials and works of art, utilizing a well-organized collection of found materials commonly known as trash. Alright, well, if you still don't know what that means, I'm going to continue and tell you a little more about it. One of the things you got to write in your business plan is the industry analysis. You got to talk about the environment that you find yourself in. And that goes into a few sections because this thing works for multiple industries. I have 3 listed here. Waste management is a necessity in every civilized city across the globe. And by the way, I'm going to throw you a statistic that I read that they determined, United Nations or somebody determined that there are 10,000 cities in the world. But what makes a city? You know, is it the population? You know, so the way that they count that, I don't know, but I imagine this plays happening in every city. Staffing agencies generate income fees staffing agencies generate commission fees by acting as intermediary between an employer and an applicant. Firms may utilize talent scouts through a staffing agency who seek potential employees, or employees may approach an agency seeking a firm. I don't know how much a year staffing is, but I'll get a number for that. And that's part of the environment that it's in. Every single city across the whole world probably has people who are looking for jobs, probably has people who need workers. So there's space to get in between that and cause something to happen. Might be an oversaturated market. There's a lot of competition, but we have an edge, and I'll get to that in a minute. Advertising revenue online in the form of Google AdSense royalties from YouTube and other platforms. Works on an attention economy model. The payout is dependent on view counts, ad clicks, and organic sharing. The revenue from the media aspect, the TV show aspect of this plan could potentially outweigh the income from all of the other things that it has going for it. Customer analysis. So number one customer is Google, because that's who's paying the, let me talk about it, what I got written down so far. Google acts as intermediary between advertisers and content creators. Payouts are dependent on viewer engagement. Google's YouTube monetization is available to anyone provided they meet some criteria, such as subscriber count. There is an audience for zero-waste upcycling and sustainable art and engineering ready to consume daily content from Google and other platforms while sharing with friends, providing a multiplier effect to content engagement and ad revenue. Multiplier effect. You hook just a few people and they tell everybody else, and then they tell a lot of people. And if you're good at it and you stick with it every day, you get these people hooked, they're watching all the time, it becomes a TV show. You know how TV shows are. Once you like one, you can't stop watching it. And some shows are lucky enough to last almost forever. But this one's going to come across like a, sort of like a nature documentary, but also kind of like a real world sitcom, like a, what do they call it? Reality TV show. There's not going to be any script. It's just going to be people at work and they're going to do what they do. But we're going to edit it heavily and try to portray these characters in a way that makes you root for them and makes them look like they're doing really cool stuff. We want these people to look good because we are using the staffing agency model to try to get them better jobs. And we want to be on record that these people work for us and now they're making double. We're the best. So, Google's the number one customer with the ad revenue. Also, all the characters on the show, I mean, we kind of own the rights to their characters, kind of like how pro wrestling works and how football works. So, performers' rights organizations act as intermediary between a producer of media content and a copyright owner. Likenesses of the characters on the TrashPPL media programs and or the actors themselves, if used in another production, will pay royalty fees administered by a public performance rights organization. So, if anybody who works for us goes on Jay Leno or whatever, and that leads to something, you know, we need a cut of that because as long as this person's with us, and depending on what kind of pseudonym they make, what kind of stage name they use, we could own that name. Kind of like how the wrestling, they could own, say, The Undertaker. They don't own that guy's real name, but when that guy goes out, if he appears as The Undertaker, they have to pay royalty to the wrestlers. Merchandising, too. I don't know if we're going to be making dolls and action figures based on the people that work here. But if anybody gets really incredibly popular, we might have to do that. Businesses in every industry around the world will pay commission fees to staffing agencies to connect them with talent found and developed by TrashPPL. So another target customer are businesses in everywhere. Because the people that are working for us, we're trying to get them better jobs. And the people who are going to pay us to make that connection are all around us. Modular building materials, our target market are construction businesses, artists, and individuals will order the modular building materials online. These materials are sourced from found materials but are stable and can be configured to build more complex structures. And then we have the art. Our target market is art collectors, businesses, and individuals will order and or commission works of art through the website, email, or phone. These works, sourced from found materials, are made on camera, so individual items may be seen as familiar and therefore desirable by the audience. You'll see things being made, and then later on it will be available for sale. Oh, and then the last customer, municipalities may opt to outsource a portion of their waste responsibilities to TrashPPL. And maybe very far in the future, If we come up with a system that's so good and can actually collect all the trash, then we can put municipal waste out of business. I don't really see that happening. I think this is an environment where there's too much trash for everybody, and you need all the help you can get. Nobody's replacing anybody here. You can have all the waste management in the world, and there's still too much trash. And if you really have to, you can just go into the forest or into the ocean to look for trash if you need it that badly. But why not try to get people to pay you to take it away from them? Alright, next we have the competitive analysis. And before I gotta get into that, I gotta say, I don't really like competition. Normally when I think of business ideas, I'm trying to offer something that isn't even there. I'm looking for a need, and I want to fulfill that need. I mean, I'm not really the kind of person that's like, I'm going to start a hot dog cart, and then I have to consider everybody else who has a hot dog cart. Like, why would I do that? Competitive analysis. Although residential trash pickup is usually taxpayer funded, many homes and businesses will prefer to avoid sending their waste to a landfill. Instead, it is used as a resource. Sustainable waste management is to become a global standard, and customers are willing to pay a premium to protect the environment. And then we have staffing. Staffing is a crowded industry with narrow margins. The entire industry can be disrupted by offering a service that gets more out of available talent by developing an applicant's skills, character, and public image. Such an approach, if successful, can potentially disrupt the education system, as those who seek upward mobility may forego traditional education and instead opt to work for trash people. And we have modular building materials. It is an emerging market, but customers are willing to pay a premium for eco-friendly materials. Trash people invest in the character growth of engineers on staff and encourages innovation. New products and techniques will be continually developed in-house with the long-term goal of creating a new standard for building living spaces and workspaces around the entire world. This is globally transformational. Somebody that we hire is going to invent the next standard for how we build things. We're going to be using trash to do it, but we're going to do it in such a way that it looks really cool, and you can have peace of mind knowing that this came from something that would have ended up in the ocean or would have sat in a landfill for 450 years. The art business is extremely competitive, but few rely on found materials. That's a niche that people are into, to know that a structure of like a sculpture or even anything was made out of trash is something that's very exciting for some people. Not everybody does that. And even fewer have the promotional backing of a popular online media channel. Think about that. This is all on a show, okay? So like all the artistry, all that activity is being harvested and collected and put out there and shown to people. Think about all the artists out there who are trying to sell their work but do not have the backing of a media channel. So I got through all those parts and I get up to the marketing plan, and that's where I kind of just got stuck. So I thought what I'm going to do is go into the backyard and tell the camera what I already have, and then I'm just going to kind of think out loud about some marketing related issues. I'm not writing anything down yet, but all the things I spoke about and much more, I've put a lot of thought into in the past 4 years that enabled me to concisely write everything down. And that's not even everything, there's more, but I'm going to get into it. As for marketing, though, I haven't put that much thought into it because I like coming up with things that market themselves. Like, there's a need out there for this kind of thing. How do you let them know that this thing is available? thinking about the way this thing scales. It's always going to have to start off really simple with a minimal staff, and you have minimal supplies, and then you just get started. You make some pieces, you put them up for, you try to sell them. When I say put them up for sale, I mean there's things like eBay and Etsy, and there's marketplaces out there where people are already looking for stuff. In a way, you could say that eBay does the marketing for you in that way. But individual sellers like us are going to have to care a lot about the presentation of each individual item. There's going to have to be somebody on staff. I have a sales category where somebody, this really is sales focused because we have to sell the works of art. We have to sell modular building materials. We have to tell people that we can pick up their trash. We can tell people that if they're looking for a job, we could try to help them. We're telling people if they're looking for people to work for them, then we might be able to supply them some labor. And somebody has to administer the Google account. Whoever's dealing with putting the show online, well, a marketing team or a salesperson has to be involved with choosing the keywords and what the clickbait headline is going to be worded like when we drop this on Facebook and Twitter and wherever else. Making a show isn't easy, but if it's good, everyone will share it for you. The marketing happens for you because everyone who watches it will just show it to other people. And then over time it grows. And that only works if what you have is good. But what we have here is good. A show about this thing, or either depicting or revealing, even documenting what is happening here. If there's daily content, and there will be, then, and that feeds back into the rest of the system. I mean, the show is the marketing. Because in some ways it's the product, and like I said, I believe the advertising revenues could overshadow all other revenues. But it is the show aspect that allows us to make these jobs possible, getting people and getting them into work that pays double or whatever. The show helps with that. We might have a few special people who might have acting ability, and these people might go even further than that. You know, we could scalp them to movies. So I found some kind of template, and I wrote down some things, and maybe I have something to say as related to any of these. Sales volume. Now, I can't predict sales volume. Some days people are going to buy art, some days they're not. If I were to have a goal of saying we're going to sell $500 of art a day, is that going to really happen every day? Where's that money coming from? What do we got to do about shipping? A lot of these are going to be really big sculptures and stuff. We would have to come up with, like, you got to pick this up or we'll arrange a delivery of some sort. Sales volume. Well, the ad revenue is dependent on the engagement. The waste management revenue. The waste management revenue has to scale with the income and the size of the place, because we could get in over our heads and collect more trash than we can process, and then we run into the landfill problem. You have to get the EPA involved if you're trying to open a new landfill. That's not something that you can just do. But we're not going to have a landfill. This trash is our supply. We're going to separate it into containers and stuff and have places for it. Like, here's the paper, here's the plastic, here's the wood. Yeah, it's not trash anymore once we pick it up. So I don't see why the EPA has to be concerned with, there's no landfill situation here is what I'm saying. Back to sales volume. How many workers can we move? The commissions we're making off of moving people into other jobs. I'm going to look into other staffing agencies and see a ratio of how many people they employ to how many people do they actually move. I'd be interested in that because we're going to be moving our own employees. You get a job with us, and then we retrain you and upscale you a little bit, and then sell you to someone else for more. So we can't. If there's larger demand than the people we can supply, well, that's a problem. So how far we can go with that's something we got to try to do for every. We'll figure that out. That's something else I have to figure out. Sales volume. As for modular building materials, I think that could be endless. Like, we could potentially get an enormous contract that needs tons of this stuff, and we could be building it for months. Sales volume in modular building materials, to me, feels endless, especially with the price of wood going up. Sales volume, the trash removal thing. We will directly call businesses and ask them if they're interested in getting a better rate on their trash removal. We'll undercut, and we'll do it for at least one, and then we try to separate, we get the system started, and then over time, we add more and more clients who rely on us to move, we're obligated to move their waste every single week. But that's where we're going to get the trash from. People are going to pay us to take it away from them. That's where it all begins. But like I said, when we're collecting this stuff, we have to move it. So engineers have to be coming up with ways to turn this trash into something else, and artists have to be coming up with ways to turn this trash into something else. And then we have salespeople who are trying to move what these people made. They're taking pictures of it. They're out there, they're networking. They're trying to do everything they can to find buyers for these things. Again, we're back to sales. The sales value. I have to try to come up with numbers for how much money could potentially come from each of these things. Sales growth and market share. Sales growth, I have to try to explain how this thing scales, because it would start with a minimal amount of employees and then scale up to, I've never been able to see more than 70. It could happen though, maybe if you get better management than me. But when I think about the whole shebang, how many people could be involved, I don't see how the space can sustain more than 70 people. I'll get into why later. Brand loyalty, awareness. Brand loyalty. I don't think there's competition for this sort of thing. I don't really worry about people switching brands or buying from another brand, because we're turning trash into something else. If there were other companies doing that, then we're on the path to making the world a better place. That's not really a bad thing if other people are trying to do that. There's more than enough for everybody, and I think us alone won't be enough to serve the market. I think there's room for plenty of businesses that do this. At least one of these facilities in every single city in the entire world. So this is going to be a global phenomenon. At first it's going to be a lot of advertising, a lot of marketing for just one location. But as it grows, and it's going to continue to grow, I don't know how long it would take to get one in every single city in the entire world. But we're going to come up with a system where one can be started without me involved. I'm going to make a manual. So, you just follow the steps and this whole thing can happen, provided that you can fulfill all the roles involved and have a space. competitors' efforts. This is where I have to look at each of the individual income streams, look at what other people are doing marketing wise, and talk about that here. Market strategy, content, channels for awareness, creates interest, and then engagement, and then desire, and then advocacy, and then action. People who watch this show online are going to be inspired to want to buy things from us or to be involved with it somehow. The show is like I said, our biggest product is the marketing. The marketing itself is the product. The recycling of the trash, that's just part of the TV show. Product. We have a few of them. We have the modular building materials and the artists and the labor and the intellectual property. Promotion. Direct calling and the show. Placement. eBay, Etsy. I guess the salesperson would have to identify, I would have to identify places where we could list these things and sell passively. Price. Price really depends on the item. I don't know what we're going to make. The engineers and the artists have to decide that. I have to bring trash to them and they got to look at it and they got to use their imagination. And then after they make something, we can take a picture of it and hopefully we sell it, but either way they got to make something else because the trash isn't going to stop. Implementation plan. Oh God, finally out of the marketing section and I'm into something else. Implementation plan. I got to get a building. I got to set up the equipment to capture video and audio. And then I have to invite people in there I will collect and sort trash. I got to get an artist and an engineer and persuade them to try to make something out of the trash. Meanwhile, we have a salesperson trying to find better jobs for those two people. And then at the end of the night, we're going to look through the footage and try to edit together something in between 20 minutes to an hour that just kind of condenses the daily events down to something kind of entertaining and hopefully informative. Maybe it could include some narration in some spots, maybe not. I don't know, but we got to try to edit that together before those people come back the next morning, because then we're going to do it all over again. Operations plan. Somebody go collects the trash. We set up the trash appointment first to take the trash from somebody. Somebody goes and gets the trash. They bring it back. Somebody sorts all the trash. The artists and engineers source from the trash and they make stuff. And then the salesperson tries to sell what they made while also trying to get them better jobs. And then after everybody goes home, the video team looks at what they got and edits a show together and tries to put it out before everybody comes back in the morning. Management team. We need a supply manager who oversees setting up the supply for the artists engineers. That includes organizing, getting the trash physically and bringing it physically over and then physically sorting it and how to keep it and all that. That's somebody's job, the supply manager. And then there's a logistics manager who liaisons between all of the departments to make sure everybody's clear on what they got to do. And then somebody has to manage the sales department, and then somebody has to manage the AV department. And then we have a thing called Philosophy Factory, where we kind of have a think tank kind of thing, and they make non-binding recommendations to the logistics manager, who communicates it to all of the other parties involved and tries to. That's how this thing has the ability to evolve over time. Because in each city, the way you do it It's got to be more appropriate than the other one. There's got to be variations. You got to have people on staff. When I say philosophers on staff, I mean when you're doing staffing, when somebody comes in, sometimes you're not going to know where to fit them. Sometimes you try to get them to do some stuff, and it just seems like they talk so much. So I want to get all the people that talk a lot and put them in one room, and just them talking to each other is a show in itself. But these people are going to be required to learn about things and give TED Talks and debate with each other about the direction of everything. And that's called the Philosophy Factory. Financial plan. Oh, this part's going to be fun. I got to come up with how much money it costs to actually get a space like this. How much money it costs to get a truck. Who knows what kind of licensing we're going to need. I got to be able to pay all these employees. I need all money for the video equipment and stuff. Appendix. Plastic takes 450 years to break down. It gets in the ocean, and then it breaks down into microplastics, and then it gets in the fish, and then we feed the fish to the babies. Recycling plants don't really do enough, and a lot of plastic still ends up in landfills. There's too much in landfills. Landfills shouldn't even exist. Every single city should be able to reuse and upcycle all of their waste. And whatever's left over, they might eventually learn not to do that. But especially the plastic, if we can turn that into everything, there is no such thing as waste. All of it can be used, all of it's valuable. All of it. It's a resource that we're going to use to build new things. If the plastic is your choice for the next 450 years, should this plastic be in the form of a structure, or should it be in the ocean decomposing into microplastics that will get into the fish? Alright, well, thanks for watching. That's what I got so far. I'm surprised this turned out to be half an hour, but I got more coming, and thank you for everything. I don't care how long it's going to take for me to set this thing up. This is something that I'm really doing, but I have to put a lot of work into the planning, because once it starts, it's not going to stop.